We are going to take a look at the P365XL with the RomeoZero optic. Now, before owning this, I had the regular P365 from Sig. I had carried that for some time now, and I really did like that one, and I got it just a little bit before the XL was announced, which is typically how things go for me. I'll buy something and then the new one is announced like a week later or something. It was just right after it, and I had just delayed in getting this one because I just hadn't felt like spending the money to upgrade it. Now, one of my friends has the XL, and I had shot that, and I liked a number of things on it, and I happened to see this show up at a local store there, and I picked this guy up. And I was wanting to do a comparison of this with the old P365 right here with it, but I had to sell the old one to be able to buy this one. I've got the old video that I linked to, and you can take a look at that, and I'll compare this a bit with that. Additionally, this came with the RomeoZero Red Dot sight on it here, which this is the first pistol I've ever owned with a red dot, so that is a little bit different. All right, start off with here, just because people freak out if I don't do this. I got this, I got that, okay. We're empty, so let's go ahead and just go over the big differences in the P365 and the P365XL themselves. Not going into the optic yet. Well, we have a longer slide on here. You see the frame stops right here, and that is right where the regular P365 slide stopped at. It was just right there on it. There's not really any difference in the top of the frame or the bottom of this slide, and they are actually interchangeable. I have switched around the frame of my old P365 with the with my friend's XL. Of course, this has the optics cut on it there. We've got a little bit more of a beaver tail on the grip here than what you had on the regular P365. Kind of using the wrong hand there to show this, but that gives a little bit more of a bite on it, which is nice. We have the extended grip on here. The grip on the P365 stops about there. Additionally, this kind of has the flared out mag well there to make it a little bit easier to get mags in at different angles as it kind of funnels them in. And additionally, this comes with a flat trigger instead of the curved trigger, because flat triggers are all the current rage. So as far as all this on here, I really like the differences on it here. The little bit longer slide is typically not an issue for carry because, you know, everything below that point is concealed. The big difference on this from a carry perspective is going to be the extended grip here, because that is what gets harder to conceal. Now, if you were using the flat flush mag on the P365, then this is a bit longer. If you use the extended 12 round mag on the P365, then this is exactly the same length. And if you're using that extended mag, then there's no reason to not just go ahead and go with that there. The big thing that it may make you want to not go with this is if you want to avoid that extended grip there. One odd thing that I kind of noticed, the extended mag on the regular P365, you know, has the plastic that goes up to about here on the mag, which means that you tend to just grab that there, and you've got enough of a bite that you can just kind of insert it like that when you put it in there. This one, you really can't do that, and you kind of got to make sure you use the palm and slap it in there with it. Now, that's typical for most of these here, and that extended mag on the regular 365 is kind of an outlier, and it's just more just a habit that I have to change when I load it, that I've kind of got to give it a pop with the bottom of my palm, which I'm just not accustomed to doing. That's not a big deal. I think I do like the flat trigger on it. I had never had a pistol with a flat trigger, but that's definitely feels nice there. I think you get a good clean pull on it. And the beaver tail there is nice that it gives you a little bit more, it just gives you a little bit more support there after you fire, which is important for like your next shot that you have coming up. So a couple things I noticed when I started putting rounds through it. There was issue with the primer drag with the regular P365, and that was that the slide was moving so fast there to pick up the next round. Instead of just leaving a little dimple in there, it would actually slide and leave a little line on there, and that could be problematic, that a lot of those were breaking, and Sig had to beef them up. One thing the extra length on the slide does here is that slows down the slide just a tick, and that slows it down enough that the primer drag is pretty much non-existent on this one. I mean, I can show you pictures here from this, and it is just completely gone and eliminated. I put right about 200 rounds through this at the range. Most of that was with cellular and bellet ammo. I put a little bit of the Sig 365 ammo through it. I don't have a whole lot of that, so I had to kind of use it sparingly. But in that 200-ish rounds that I put through it, I did not have any type of malfunctions at all with it. And I had several with the first 200 rounds I put through my P365. Just somehow here the XL didn't seem to have any of those issues. It all fed through flawlessly. It seems to me that the magazines are not quite as stiff to load when they are new. The ones with the 365 were just ridiculously hard to load, and you had to kind of load them up and leave them sitting for a week to just compress the springs down. Maybe I have just gotten used to the springs on the 365, and so I just didn't notice it with these. That's definitely a possibility. And the other big thing we're gonna have to talk about is this guy, this red dot on here. So as I had said earlier, I had not ever had a pistol with one of these on it. The red dot is pretty easy to pick up. It does take a little bit for you to get used to finding that being able to just find it really quickly can be a little awkward at first. This does have some rear sights kind of built into it there. So you could not only use those if you end up having a malfunction with the red dot and still have some backup sights, but it also gives you something to use to help you find that red dot, that you could start lining up the front sight with the rear, and that will bring the red dot into there. And you just have to go around and practice a bit trying to get used to finding this thing. And it's just a little bit harder to find this because your red dots on your rifles are much larger, and so you've got a larger area that dot can be in, so you pick it up more quickly. The other thing that's weird with this that you don't have with rifles is that every time you shoot, your red dot moves, and that's just a little disconcerting. It doesn't take you very long to get used to it, honestly. But if you've never used one of these before, it will weird you out the first time. But just a few mags through it, you get used to that, and just kind of a bit of just practicing with it will help you pick up the dot on it. So those are things that just you need a little bit of practice to get used to. As far as what I think of the red dot, honestly, I'm shooting much better with this. Now, I've shot my friend's XL before, and I did a bit better with it than I did with my regular 365. But mainly, I think it just changes the balance a little bit being longer, and I think that did a little magic in there with that. But with the red dot, I think that's also helping me quite a bit, because I think one thing that I was doing a lot is that I have not been getting the sights completely properly lined up all the time before firing. I just have them kind of close, and that ends up, making the target area a lot bigger. That's particularly on the additional shots after the first one. Then after the recoil, you're having to reacquire those sights, and I'm just being a bit slower getting those, and to try to speed it up, I was just not getting them lined up all the time. The Red Dot kind of does away with a lot of that because you pick that up very, very quickly and you're pretty much lined up. You know, you're not having to align the old-fashioned sights on it, which is the reason for having that thing. And I know as it goes off of what would be the true center to it over to the sides and stuff, you get a little bit of a parallax on there to a certain extent that can start moving it off a little bit. It took me just a little bit of adjustment on here to get it shooting right. I don't know how much of that was it being off versus how much of it is me doing something to throw the aim off a little bit. It seemed to have got it into an area where I was pretty happy with it. So let's take a look at what I could actually do with this thing at the range. If you want to see a bit more about this, my old video on the P365 will have a lot of information that is relevant to this, as they are inherently the same gun, just a few modifications of it there, and then one big added feature to it. But hopefully, if any of you have the regular 365 and have been thinking about an upgrade on it, this could be helpful for you. And if it's just a completely new firearm to you and you're interested in it, you can take a look at both of these videos and hopefully those will be helpful. If you found this video useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and a like. You can go down into the comment section and leave any thoughts you have down there. And if you're interested, you can also subscribe to my channel and click the little bell notification to make sure that you catch all the videos that I post so you don't miss anything. I'm Jeremy with Poindexter G, and we'll see you next time.